So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the session on the ISHA Upanishad. In the earlier session, we had looked at a broad introduction to the scriptural literature of India and the place of the Upanishads within that scheme of classifying, which was the Samahitas, the Brahmanas, the Aranyakas, and the Upanishads. So this particular Upanishad, of course, belongs to the Shukla Yajurveda, and I will not go back to what we discussed. We will straight away plunge into the Upanishad itself. So broadly speaking, now what's yeah. So I thought, so this Upanishad has got 18 shlokas. It's one of the shorter Upanishads. When I say one of the shorter Upanishads, the shortest Upanishad is the Mundaka Upanishad, Mundaka, which is 12 shlokas, and therefore that is truly the shortest. It is also deemed to be the most comprehensive in terms of the spiritual knowledge given. But this with 18 shlokas is also short, because thereafter you have 35 shlokas, and then of course the length keeps increasing, and then you have the longest Upanishads in the form, largest and longest in the form of the Brihadaranyaka and the Chandogya Upanishad. So what do these 18 shlokas signify broadly? So the first one is in fact almost a complete Upanishad by itself, the first shloka. And we'll go into that. It broadly talks about God and the world. And as we go into the shloka, we will find that it has within its 4 lines the definition of how an Upanishad should be constructed also. So many scholars have found tremendous depth in the very first shloka itself, because they say that this epitomizes not only the message of the Gita, but also the structure, message of the Upanishads in general, but also the structure of what it should be telling us. So form and content are both indicated in the very first shloka. Then the second shloka is about work and wisdom, and I'll not go deep into that at this point. We will keep referring to this. The third one is about the denying spirits, which means that, we were having a discussion just a few minutes before Sunil ji had joined us, having a discussion with Sunil Rastogi. So we were saying that, each one of us, gets to become spiritual at a certain point of time in life. Until then, what prevents us from becoming spiritual is what is actually referred here as a denying spirits. There are some attitudes, situations which are not very conducive for our becoming spiritual. So that is all encompassed in this phrase of denying spirits. Then 4th to the 8th is about God, about the Supreme as it is called. And they have used 2 words which are called immanent and transcendent, which I would like to explain now. Immanent is what is inside the human being. Transcendent is what is beyond the human being. So if we say that the Supreme is immanent, it means it is inside every human being. And the reference, so it is like, to use a phrase from the Bhagavad Gita, you would say the Atma which is inside you is immanent, and you would say Paramatma is transcendent, because Paramatma is beyond you and it's there in the universe. So that's the terminology that has been introduced here. And there are not only terminology, but a certain explanation of the relationship between immanent and transcendent. Then we have a set of shlokas which are about ignorance and knowledge, and this has been variously interpreted because the meaning is not very clear. We will look at the 4 or 5 interpretations that people have, and the kind of interpretation that everybody has agreed to with respect to these 3 shlokas. Then we have 12 to 14 is also constructed on lines similar to 9 to 11. But then here there is a degree of agreement on what the interpretation is. So it is about the manifest world that we can see, and the unmanifest world which is behind what we can see. And it's a very sound exposition of the relationship between the manifest and the unmanifest. Then finally, what we have is 15 to 18 is deemed to be the Bhakti Yoga aspect of the Upanishad here. And these are supposed to be the words of someone who has lived according to the first 14 shlokas. And the 15th shloka onwards, 15, 16, 17, 18, in the last moments of that person's life, his prayer for ensuring that all his sadhana bears fruit, and his prayers for the ultimate truth to be revealed to him, even if it is in the last moments of his life. So this is what we have as a broad introduction, and I do not have any slides here. As I said, I'll be going now to the site on the Upanishads, and I hope that you can see this now. So I'm going to be clicking, and this is what was shared by Sunil ji. So we will go to the mantras, as they are called, because you see, you don't call it shloka, though the chand may be very similar, yet you call it mantra, or in this case, since it is from the Yajurveda, technically it is Yajus, but it is not in prose form. You have it in poetic form. So calling it mantra is a reasonable compromise. So the first mantra that we have out of the 18 is this, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. And I'll click on this now so that we have the detailing. So Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha Ma Gridah Kasyas Svidhanam. Okay. So let's look at the meaning, and then we look at the different meanings that are, and the meaning will become clear when you look at the word to word first. So Jagatyam means universal motion. Yet Kimcha means whatsoever. Jagat is the individual universe. Asti is in brackets. Idam, Sarvam, all. Isha is Bhagwan. Vasyam, Vas karna, it actually means, to stay. Okay. Of course, we'll find out what is to stay. Tena, by that. Tyaktena, okay, is to renounce. Bhunjita, you should enjoy. Kasyas, with any person. Dhanam, magridaha, do not lust after. So the word-to-word meaning is rather simple, but let's look at how it all adds up. So the meaning as it flows from the Anvaya is Jagatyam. Yat kimcha jagat asti idam sarvam isha vasyam. So Jagatyam yat kimcha, that is जो भी चीज हमें in motion दिखता है, Jagatyam yat kimcha. So that has been captured by the phrase movement in universal motion. Jagat is motion itself. Jagatyam is, if you look at the word Jagatyam, is universal motion. Jagat is the universe. So it is basically pointing to us the property of the world around us, that it is always in motion. And it says that this perpetual motion universe is the Nivasa Sthan of the Lord. All this is for the habitation by the Lord, whatsoever is the individual universe of movement in universal motion. So to get this a little better, let's look at the Hindi right now. इस वैश्व गति में, इस अत्यंत गतिशील समष्टि जगत में जो भी यह दृश्यमान गतिशील वैयक्तिक जगत है, यह सबका सब ईश्वर के आवास के लिए है. Correct? So this is a very startling statement, because it is not saying that that Lord is there. It says that the whole creation is meant for the Lord to be there. Now that is a very, very, and therefore it is not even the statement of there is something called God and God created, nothing like that. It simply says that this entire srishti that you have is designed, has been created for the Lord to be present. And therefore the Lord is present. That is very obvious. And Yes. Anybody has a question here? Okay. By that, so now we have defined ISHA, that is the Lord. We have defined the world around us. We have defined the property of the world around us, which is in constant motion. We have defined one more property of this world around us, which is that it is designed for the residence of the Lord. So a lot of ideas here. And now it gives you some directions as to what you should do. So by that renounced, you should enjoy. So he says, ये भगवान का घर है, ये आपका घर नहीं है, तो you cannot claim anything in the universe as yours. So without claiming it as yours, you should know how to appreciate, enjoy. So we say it's my house, really not your house, because it's made with the materials which belong to the universe. Is it your money? No, someone gave it in exchange of something that you did. So if you analyze everything, nothing is really yours. At the same time, you have a life of around 100 years. And therefore, it simply says that you should know how to appreciate the universe, appreciate the world around you without claiming it to be your own, and be dispassionate, which is obviously one of the messages of the Gita. And therefore it says, since nothing is yours, you should not lust after any other man's possession. So how do we say this in Hindi? इस सबके त्याग द्वारा तुझे इसका उपभोग करना चाहिए. So you have to renounce it first, then उपभोग करना चाहिए. किसी भी दूसरे की धन संपत्ति पर ललचाई दृष्टि मत डाल. Okay. So beautiful meaning. Now, I told you that this has been, yeah. Can I'll just stop for a moment. Oh, what happened? Yeah. Stop share. Yes. Any thoughts on this at this point in time? Because it is a very, very deep first mantra, as you can see. Okay.
Raj.
Yes.
Raj.
Yes.
ये जो कहा गया है त्याग द्वारा उपयोग करिए, तो त्याग का मतलब है ओनरशिप का त्याग कर दें. मतलब उससे लस्ट ओनरशिप का मतलब दिस इज गॉड्स पोजीशन, इट हैज बीन गिवन बाय द गॉड, सो वी शुड नॉट बी आसक्ति, जैसे कहा जाता था, आसक्ति, उससे अटैच न रहें, डिटैच होके यूज करें. इज इट
करेक्ट? करेक्ट. तो किसी भी चीज पे आपका नाम नहीं लिखा हुआ है ना, दो यू हैव ऑल द लीगल मेजर्स दैट प्रॉपर्टीज इन योर नेम एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ, but in reality property is God's and it is not really yours, because after we pass away, and this whole earth has been there after generations have passed away, and each generation claims that this piece of land is mine. So that he says is not correct, that is not tenable, is what he's saying. आपने ठीक ही कहा. तो कोई भी चीज अपनी नहीं है, कोई भी चीज पराई नहीं है, सब ऊपर वाले की है.
Raj.
Yes.
एक्चुअली ये जो थॉट है ना, ये प्रैक्टिस भी करने पड़ता है. आई ट्राई टू प्रैक्टिस दिस. इनफैक्ट जब कोई बोलता है आपका ये हुआ है, नहीं, मेरा कुछ नहीं हुआ है, उनका कारण में हुआ है. इसमें क्या है, आप once you start getting a habit of this thing, detachment immediately starts. आपका डिटैचमेंट जो वर्ल्डली ऑब्जेक्ट्स का लिए, जो अनरियल ऑब्जेक्ट्स का लिए रहता है, थोड़ा थोड़ा आपको धीरे धीरे आपको राइट पाथ में ले आता है कि आपका चिंताधारा चेंज हो जाता है. जो हम कुछ नहीं कर रहे, वो कर रहा है, इससे आपका पावर भी बढ़ता है. यू गेट. तो एटलीस्ट मेरा फीलिंग ऐसा हुआ है. आई हैव इन माय लाइफ आई हैव एक्सपीरियंस दिस. अब किसी चीज में लोग, अब किसी का अच्छा होता तो आप खुश रहिए, उसके लिए आप बोलिए हम कुछ करेंगे. मतलब ये मेंटालिटी अगर डेवलप धीरे धीरे हो जाता है ना, यू गेट दैट फीलिंग ऑफ क्या ब्लिसफुल, जो जॉय होता है ना, यू गेट दैट फीलिंग ऑफ जॉय. तो ये मैं महसूस किया, इसलिए आई थॉट आई विल शेयर इट.
No, absolutely. It is not easy because society, not only modern society, but all societies are designed to enhance your ego, which is enhance your sense of possession. Ego is nothing but possession. No, I possess this body. I possess BE mechanical from MNNIT. I possess this carrier that came out of that. I possess. So it is all I, and I possess. Correct. So in effect, do you really possess your degree? No, you learned what others contributed. You learned from teachers. You learned from your friends. Correct. So where is it? Where is the question of it being your degree? That is the point. Right? So that is a wisdom. And then when we realize that there's nothing that I can really call my own, because there is always the contribution of someone else, and that someone else will have the contribution of someone else. And this entire network of contributions is what we call the residential plot permanently allotted to God. तो हम लोग gated community में रहते हैं, सोचते हैं कि भाई ये gate जो है इस community का है, हम बाकी कोई नहीं आ सकता. But the gated community itself is resident on Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is the residential. जैसे वह वसुंधरा बोलते हैं ना, वसुंधरा is a term that is given for planet Earth. So that is the idea. And yes, so that's my response to you, Vishwarup. I think there's a question or a comment by Sunil ji. Please go ahead.
तो इसमें दूसरा पार्ट ये है कि दूसरे के सामान को ललचाई दृष्टि से मत देखो. That's okay, but अगर दूसरा जिस व्यक्ति का मान लीजिए आप करेंटली उपयोग कर रहे हो और दूसरा उसको ललचाई दृष्टि से देखता है, तब तो आपको उस गीता के उस पाठ की तरफ जाना पड़ेगा जो गीता में सिखाया गया कि भाई अपना कर्तव्य करो. जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल आजकल ये हो रहा है कि जैसे यूक्रेन वाला वॉर हो रहा है, तो उसमें ये है कि भाई अब इसमें कहना बड़ा मुश्किल है कि वो उसको ललचाई दृष्टि से देख रहा है या वो अपनी सुरक्षा कर रहा है. पर रियल लाइफ में तो ये होगा ना कि अगर आप दूसरे को ये अगर पता लग जाता है कि आप अपना नहीं मान रहे हो, तो प्रोबब्ली यू आर नॉट डिफेंडिंग इवन.
करेक्ट, यू वोंट इवन.
इसका प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट भी है.
सुनील जी, इसमें जो है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू गॉड लिया गया है, ज्यादा दैन की दूसरी चीज ललचाई दूसरी तरफ देखने के लिए विद रिस्पेक्ट टू गॉड लिया गया है. गॉड एंड द वर्ड के बारे में डिफाइन किया है. तो जो एग्जिस्टेंस है वो एक गॉड की है, और इसमें हम एज ए गेस्ट हैं, तो हम ललचाई दृष्टि से हम देखें, मतलब अपने आप उसको त्याग करें. मेरे ख्याल से मेरा इंटरप्रिटेशन ये है. क्यों राजशेखर?
हाँ, तो एक चीज है, नाउ वी हैव टू स्लाइटली शिफ्ट गियर when we are discussing the Upanishads. Okay, see, the Bhagavad Gita is a manual of greater practical application. Okay, the Upanishads may give you a lot of ideals which you will find difficult to practice. So the Upanishads are meant for only spiritual knowledge. They are at a very high level of spiritual knowledge. So they will give you ideas and concepts which typically may apply only to someone who's a sannyasi. That's what we have to remember. Okay, so, and that is why they inspired the entire society through the sannyasis, because if you recall the structure of the scriptural knowledge that we have, which is the Samahita, Brahmana, Aryanyaka. Aryanyaka means जो जंगलों में जो है कंसीव किया गया है. So all the Maharshis and the Munis, from whom each one of these Upanishads came out as an outcome of their tapasya, they have given you super ideals. So we should not really think, while the comment of Sunilji is very right, you know, in real life, I am a person who is totally going by the philosophy of everything belongs to the Lord. But I have a colleague of mine who thinks, you know, that song that you have, Ram Nam Japna Paraya Mal Apna. Okay, this is the exact opposite of what we have here. Exactly the opposite. So what do you do with that person who says Paraya Mal Apna, and Apna Mal to Apna hai hi hai, Paraya Mal bhi apna hai? It is exact opposite of this. So there is no answer in the, so obviously the answer will be later in the shloka, which says actually Asurya Nam. So jo aisa hota hai, just to elaborate on the point, the person who behaves in contradiction to the first mantra is referred to in the third mantra as Asurya nama te lokena andhena tamasavrita. वो एक, क्योंकि वो आत्मा का हनन करता है. Those words that enveloped by blinding darkness are deemed as sunless. These people are, slaying their self and departing to them. तो अगर आप जो है पराया माल अपना का philosophy adopt करते हो, then the Upanishad later says that आप आत्मा हनन करते हो और आपका जो भी rebirth है, it will be in places where you will suffer only more. So the answer is not given in this shloka. The answer is, sorry, I'm saying shloka because of so much of Bhagavad Gita, I should say mantra. And therefore it says that you must obviously respect the principle of the universe that nothing is yours. If the other person saying what is yours is mine, then he is contradicting the law of the universe and he will suffer for that. But just because he is contradicting the law of the universe, it doesn't mean that you should contradict, because you should be led by a higher idea. This is the logic.
Raj, yes. I just want to add something.
Sure, please.
I want to add something. Actually, since we have been guided by our thoughts in the ashram and people around the ashram, but I thought I should share with you is भगवान क्या चाहते हैं हमसे, भगवान किस चीज में खुशी होते हैं जो हम लोग नहीं कर पाते हैं. It may be idealistic, but we should know what is the idealistic approach. ये उपनिषद से निकल आता है. और दूसरा चीज है, आप अच्छा चीज अगर प्रैक्टिस नहीं करेंगे वो आप कर नहीं पाएंगे इन द लॉन्ग रन. बिकॉज आप जो बोल रहे थे, यू आर वेरी राइट. साधु लोग जो करते हैं वो सोच अगर हम लोग नहीं जानते हैं, तो हाउ विल वी मूव टुवर्ड्स higher steps of spiritual upliftment. इतना ही बोलना था.
Yeah, so we have to constantly try to do as much, which is why also in the ashrama system that we have, we are all technically in the vanaprastha, okay? We are not actively earning members of society, though we may be having earnings, but we are not actively involved in society. And then we have to go to sannyasa so that all that we learned can be fully applied. But there are some people who go to sannyasa directly. Yes. And they are the ones who become the maharshis and the munis and give us all these ideas. So I thought what I will do now is I will share a very important way of analyzing the first mantra. As I said, it is taken to be one of the deepest mantras. So we've looked at one flow of meaning. Let's look at a second flow of meaning that emerges, for which I will share screen and I will look at the words once again. 1 minute. This one, yeah. Oh no, something happened. 1 minute. So share and yeah, okay. So you can see this now. What there is a very famous commentator who has analyzed the words in this way. I'm just going to keep that little book for me. His name is A. Parthasarathi. He runs one Vedanta Academy near Bombay in Lonawala. Okay, and he is actually a son of a very big business group in South India. So his analysis is like this. See, actually, this begins with Om. Om Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. So it says the first line that we have is Om Idam Sarvam. So, Om
Idam Sarvam.
Om Idam Sarvam. So it takes Om and Idam Sarvam together and says everything is Om, or Om is a representation of Brahman. So the analysis is that every Upanishad has to begin with the declaration that Brahman hai. So he says that Om Idam Sarvam is the declaration. So there are 4 things that are required within any Upanishad, whether the Upanishad is 18 mantras or 12 mantras, or it's a big, huge Upanishad like the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. 4 things are required. What are these 4 things that are required? Number 1, there has to be a declaration that Brahman is the supreme reality. Number 2, there has to be an explanation of this supreme reality. Number 3, it has to show a path to the supreme reality. And number 4, there has to be some advice, specific advice given to the seekers. So all these 4 aspects of an Upanishad are to be found in this one mantra. How? Declaration of Brahman as supreme reality is these phrases. Idam Om Idam Sarvam. That is, Brahman is there everywhere. Okay. Now, what is explanation of Brahman, which is point number 2? It is there in line number 1 and 2. So, क्या है? ये जगत्याम जगत है. उसका प्रॉपर्टी जगत्याम जगत है. यत किंच जगत्याम जगत. अस्ति, ये एक प्रॉपर्टी हो गया, एक्सप्लेनेशन हो गया. और ये वास्यम, इट इज अगेन इफ यू टेक ईशा, ईशा के वास के लिए बनाया गया है. ओके. Then what is the path to the Brahman? तेन त्यक्तेन भुंजीता. आप जो है रिनाउंस करके तो एंजॉय करो. और स्पेसिफिक एडवाइस क्या है? मां गृधः कस्यस विद्वन्. दूसरे की धन अपना मत समझो. So these are 4 elements that we find when you deconstruct the mantra to be an important way to look at the construction of the mantra as well as that of the Upanishads themselves. So I'm going to stop the share and we'll again, so we can keep these 4 elements in mind when we go to next to set of Upanishads also. So these 4 things we should keep in mind. Number 1, हर एक उपनिषद में एक डिक्लेरेशन होना चाहिए कि पूरी दुनिया जो है ब्रह्मन है. नंबर 2, उसमें ब्रह्मन का एक्सप्लेनेशन होना चाहिए. नंबर 3, ब्रह्मन पहुंचने तक का रास्ता दिखाना चाहिए. एंड नंबर 4, एक स्पेसिफिक एडवाइस होना चाहिए, जैसे ना सत्यम वद, धर्मचर, अतिथि देवो भव. नो दीज आर ऑल वेरी वेरी स्पेसिफिक डायरेक्शंस. तो जब ये 4 चीजें होती हैं तो उससे बनता है हमारा उपनिषद. और ये जो है ईशावास्यम इदम सर्वम यत्किंचित् अरित्याम जगत तेने त्यक्तेन भुंजीता मां गृधः कस्यस विद्धनम. कम से कम एक अगर आप ये रट लेंगे, इट इज हैविंग द एंटायर एसेंस ऑफ द उपनिषद्स. यस,
मैं एक इस पर एक मेमोरी पैक दे देता हूँ. आपने 4 चीजें कहा ना, तो डेपा मेथड बोल देते हैं इसको. डिक्लेरेशन, एक्सप्लेनेशन, पाथ एंड एडवाइस.
क्या बात है.
सो लेट अस कॉल इट डेपा मेथड. मेमोरी पैक्स दिए जाते हैं हमारे यहाँ, तो डेपा मेथड बोल सकते हैं इसको.
करेक्ट सर. एंड वी विल नॉट कॉपीराइट इट टू सुनील जी बिकॉज़ इट बिलोंग्स टू एवरीबॉडी.
Yeah, it belongs to everybody. नहीं, वैसे भी वो ब्राह्मण का ही है, सब कुछ हमारा है क्या? तो कॉपीराइट का सिस्टम है ही नहीं भैया. कॉपीराइट का सिस्टम तो मानना ही नहीं है.
Absolutely, absolutely.
सब उसी का है.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And thank you for bringing out a very quick mnemonic for this because I think very important. कि एक declaration होना चाहिए कि भाई ऐसे ऐसे है. जैसे संविधान में है ना, we the people of India, you know, have decided to give ourselves a sovereign, secular, socialist, democratic republic. It's a declaration. In fact, I would like to analyze. If you look at the Constitution, also it will have the same thing. There will be a declaration.
मेरे ख्याल से मिल जाएगा.
में a declaration है, फिर explanation है, फिर path है, फिर direction है. वो directive principles.
Advice है, फिर advice है, फिर advice.
फिर advice है. Directive principles of state policy is specific advice, but it is not binding, of course, you know, in the
right.
Constitution. So this is wonderful.
क्वेश्चन है अपनी वाइफ के आगे ये नहीं बोलना, नहीं वो समझेगी भाई पागल हो गए क्या, कुछ अपना नहीं है.
वो क्वेश्चन हमेशा अप्लाई होता है, तो इसलिए ठीक है।
I mean,
that question you have to accept.
बट ये अंदर समझना है, अंदर समझना है। इट इज इनर इम्प्रूवमेंट।
You know, paraya dhan, parayi nari. Which is that song, yeah? Which is that song?
नारी पे तो वही तो कहीं फिसल जाता है आदमी। आज फिसल जाए तो फिर न समझ।
Which is that song? Are you able to recall?
वो है
गुरु बांध के मीरा नाची रे ना, it is in that song.
Yeah, it's Guru.
So some of them, you know, are of course, you know, very, very true in their, you know, real aspect. So that's what we have. Okay, so we've done the second, I mean, we have done the first mantra. How much time do we have? Okay, we don't have time. So Upanishads will go slowly, boss. At least first Upanishad, I'm not in a great hurry, because what I want to do is, I want to, see, I have 20 books on just ISHA Upanishad, okay? Everybody has brought out some aspect or the other, which is very interesting. So what we will do is, we'll meet again next week, and we'll meet at 10:30, and everybody, you know, can remember it is 10:30, so that we have a full hour and we can spill over, you know, by an hour also. I mean, by some time, not an hour. I mean, I didn't mean that. So we'll do that so that, you know, we can explore mantra 1 in a little more of detail and go to mantra 2, 3. We'll just go, because once we do the ISHA Upanishad properly, since it is the gateway to all the Upanishads, and since mantra number 1 is the gateway not only to Upanishad but to the ISHA Upanishad itself, I think we'll stand to gain by going a little slowly. And in any case, I don't think Vanaprasthis are in a great hurry. So you have to only keep yourself in good health so that we can meet next week.
Right.
Our only prayer now is good health, correct? Good health and mental soundness.
Right. And don't die too soon.
Correct. Don't die too soon. Ugly hafte class hai. Right.
So there is an objective, na?
Yes, absolutely. And it is actually wonderful, because each of this, though I may have all these books, one would never study it in the detail unless you are forced to because of the class. You know, I have read it like that here and there, but I say, oh, there's a class. So my objective is, Arey boss, I cannot keep saying I've got so many books unless I actually read the books and, you know, I am able to bring it out. So it is mutual, right? Books are not mine, books are not yours, books are universal knowledge, and we are a channel for getting that knowledge together. And that is how I view these sessions. So they are as enlightening to prepare as hopefully they are, you know, to hear. So I would leave it at that in terms of the whole objective. But I think it's a great opportunity, is all I can say, you know, to have a group like this, you know, Mumukshu Moti. It's a very good book. Absolutely wonderful.
Without fail, we should utilize that. That is the
yes, absolutely.
Try our best to utilize.
Yes, we should try our best, because see, as you go into the other Upanishads, you will find that they are not very commonly spoken about. ISHA Upanishad is still common, but you will go to, you know, Kaivalya Upanishad, or you go to some other Upanishads, we'll find ourselves to be really, really enjoying the session. And I'm sure that we will be able to do that. So with that, I will close. So any final questions on what we did today, or any final comments from anyone?
जब आप 4th to 8th में आएंगे तो immanent और transcendent के लिए क्या words use किए जा रहे हैं, उसको explain कीजिएगा.
क्या
when
words,
you come there.
Yeah, क्या words, you know, how different people use different set of words. I will do a full homework on that. In fact, I was prepared, but I was not sure at what speed we will go today. So therefore, I will definitely do that, and we will find ourselves enriched by that experience. Okay. So with that, I will close the session. I will keep, of course, Sunilji and Sunil updated on my plans of what happens, Lucknow, Noida, or whatever. And we'll hope for the best. So thank you so much, and look forward to meeting you next Friday.
Namaskar.